Everybody, welcome in. At Stelpel, we do not do staff meetings. We hate them. So we actually use water cooler chats as a way of saying, hi, how you doing? So feel free to enjoy the banter. If you're trying to finish your lunch like Brandy and I are, Brandy is that Stelpel logo that you see. We understand leaving your camera off. All right. I'm the host. I'm Marianne Pelletier of Stelpel. Greg, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Greg Duke of Stelpel. I'm our database and Excel guru.
Ruthie, do you want to introduce yourself? Are you Stelpel today?
I can be both. Yeah. I'm Ruthie Giles. I'm with Stelpel and I do the prospect management work.
Thank you. Okay. That gave me time to have 2 more apple slices. What we're going to talk about today is last minute prospecting. We're also going to have Jen Filla on. I think it's next month. Brandy can help me out to cover a very similar topic. Like, what are we going to do? Because the end of the year is coming and our bosses are freaking out, right? So the first thing is you have to know where your gaps are. You have to know if you're short on prospects for a certain fund that needs to get funded, or if you're short on unrestricted gifts, or if you're short on something. The problem is we are continuing to move into a culture where we are a culture of donor-centric fundraising and community-based fundraising, which is where donor-centric fundraising will land us. And that means that it doesn't matter if we need more unrestricted gifts if all of our donors are only interested in giving to our endowment. That's when we have to figure out what to do about it, right? Afterwards, not at the ask. Okay? So, like all water cooler chats, please do pop in and interrupt verbally or push stuff up in chat. Our favorite time is when people who are in the session start chatting with each other about different things that they've tried. And we also pay attention. Greg and Ruthie will interrupt me, or not interrupt, but join in. Sorry. So let's get this party started. So this is not just a presentation. This is a conversation. We're at a water cooler. We're not in a classroom, okay? So if June 30th is your fiscal year end, then it's time to do some just-in-time prospecting. Okay, so one of the pieces to come up with is who are the donors who identify themselves through giving, and I have a couple of slides on that. Also, you want to figure out what I called them when I built the slide a few years ago, listening devices. Now, we call it engagement, or we use AI. I mean, we put all kinds of language on it, but essentially we're listening to social media and to other content that's put out there outside of our control that tells us what's going on with our prospects. We're also going to talk about talking to volunteers. And then, of course, we're going to keep asking. And right now is the best time to be looking for foundation grants for next year, because foundations have their own schedule of deadlines. Okay. So this is a piece, and I'm very excited. I have a slide coming up that comes from Greg's recent blog post. He's producing a course right now about using Excel for fundraising, including prospecting. And so some of the stuff that he and I have been touting will coalesce in this online course. And so I can't wait to announce it. And Greg, I'll ask you to step in and describe more when we hit that slide that you sent me this morning.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you. But some of the things that we're talking about is we got into RFM over the last few years because we all needed a new shiny object. And so we started building RFM. And that's the recency, frequency, and monetary value of a donor. But the thing is, the RFM is how to sort out the whole pool in a static way. But if you figure out what everybody's RFM score was the year before they made their first major gift, now you have a signal that gives you just-in-time prospecting. Isn't that fun? And we do have a course, of course, we have a course online for how to do RFM. The velocity of a donor the year before he made his or her first major gift, excuse me. If velocity escalates, and this is from the core data group's studies in like 2001 or something, right? If they escalate their giving, then they're telling you, hello, I love you, right? And then what average giving per year of involvement happens just before somebody makes a major gift. Think about all these giving behaviors that say this person has risen to a certain threshold. It is used by Amazon, and it's absolutely used by casinos. That's why casinos ask you for your little card, right? At some point, your amount of spending entitles you to a whole lot more benefits, because then they can bundle you back into more spending, okay? And it's true for Saks Fifth Avenue, it's true for hotel chains and airlines. And if we think about it that way with donors, which donors have reached platinum seating entitlement, right? Then we're actually thinking about donors the way that every donors are treated in every other aspect of their life when it comes to money exchanges, okay? And then how long does it take to cultivate a major gift? Is it time to ask? You can know that. Ruthie, do you do any work around cultivation time? I'm gonna put you on the spot, I'm sorry. You can just say no.
I have in
Okay,
other places, yeah. Have been in my current role long enough to speak too much to that, but in other places, absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
And in the consulting that Ruthie and I do together, one of the things that we talk about is prospect timeline, because once you understand how long it takes to cultivate a major gift, you understand the capacity of your gift officers, you understand the capacity of your pool, you understand how many gifts you're going to bring in. So sorry, that's where I was going. And then of course, I'm going to talk about using data science because that's my thing, right? If the, what is it? The Peter Drucker said, if the only tool that you have is a hammer, why does everything look like a nail? And I'm like, I really wish I had a chocolate chip cookie. Oh, let's do some artificial intelligence on that, right? So, but also it's good. And artificial intelligence is data science used as a time-based thing. So it's catching signals and saying, oh, Marianne, we noticed that you rented this other movie. Wouldn't you like this first rent this other movie, even though it's beautiful out? Because we want you to watch movies instead of, doing anything else. So let's talk about giving patterns, right? Questions or comments right now? I don't see the chat box. I'm sorry. I'm going to pull up the chat box. Okay. So you can also just go in and look for last minute prospects, right? So anybody whose life giving is higher than the average life giving for your entire database is a top prospect. Those are your silver level, platinum level donors, right? Those are your ones who get the nice hotel rooms. Or should get that kind of personal attention, right? Anybody who's giving the last full fiscal year is who is twice or more of his average giving over the prior 3 years, and that's the velocity piece, right? Anybody who's giving moves up the recognition level, right? So last year I was, let's say last year I was a silver donor, and this year I jumped gold, and now I'm a platinum donor. That's, you need to call me and go, hey, we love you, right? And then it's an increase in giving over if I continually increase my giving, especially last year, if I increase my giving, and then the year before I increased my giving, the year before that, and I haven't given yet this year, and it's about time for me to give, call me, okay? Let's talk about ways to figure out which gifts should just send a prospect straight into the research team to check them out, okay? Making a gift of stock for the first time has always, in my work, been part of a major gift model. The prospect makes a gift of stock, and then bam, then sometime later, they make a major gift, okay? Gift through a foundation or donor advised fund, and now donor advised, like, remember, I don't know if you remember in the 80s and 90s, we were dealing with stock options, then stock warrants, and then ghost something and paper something, and it was all these different ways to give somebody compensation that was hard for us to track down. Now it's philanthropic channels, right? So lucky you guys, you get to figure all that out. But if I have a philanthropic channel, there is normally a minimum threshold amount. So there's the minute I have a donor advised fund, I am a prospect of a certain level, okay? High net worth accounts is the same thing. you know, my Fidelity retirement fund, they sent me checks and I'm like, no way, right? But if I had $1 million in there, they would send me checks that had platinum or silver. I keep using platinum. That's because everybody likes that. Okay. And then who's your top 5% of donors, especially if they have not given yet this year? Okay. And then if I give through a business and you didn't know I had a business, then you need to screen me. I joke here a lot that my alma mater did. I could tell that my alma mater screened me because suddenly I started getting phone calls from a gift officer, right? And it's because I own a company. Questions or comments here? You guys want me to just keep going? You guys are having your lunches? This is Greg's slide.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know where that was going to come in. All right.
Yeah, so share with us how this goes, how this works.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been thinking about with regards to Excel and how to identify prospects in just a simple list is really to take different measures and combine them. So what I've done here is this is just a simple output of donors. This is just a dummy data set, so we just have ID numbers here. Their lifetime giving and the number of gifts they've made lifetime. And really, we could pull just about any measure here. We could pull capacity rating. We could pull in a number of different data points here. The point here is to rank these and then combine the ranking to get kind of a multi-dimensional ranking of how good these prospects might be. So in order to do that, we just use a function called rank EQ, and rank EQ is just Excel's way of saying the top person is going to be rated with a 1. And by the way, that I do talk about this in my blog post of this month a bit more. It's kind of hard to describe a function sometimes, but the way rank EQ works is simply to take someone's giving whatever is in cell B2 here, they're giving rating, number of gifts, whatever, and then compare it against the entire column of lifetime giving in this case. So our first cell in the formula is B2, which is the person's lifetime giving. The second section is the range B2 through, in this case, B 77,869. And then the third is, do we want this ascending or descending? In this case, we want it descending because we want the top person to be ranked number 1. And then I'm going to do the same thing with lifetime gifts, just move it over to C2 and to the range in column C, and then also descending. Then in the last cell, we just combine those two rankings, and we can either sort them or just kind of leave them here. So you can see that when we combine these rankings, we have someone who actually doesn't have much lifetime giving, but they've made a lot of lifetime gifts. And if you can find out if this person is not, say, a staff member and giving, and they're giving just monthly through their paycheck, as a lot of organizations set up, you might take a look at this person and say, hey, this person actually ranked pretty high with lifetime gifts and combined. Maybe this person, since they're giving so frequently, they could give maybe a little more than that. And really, it's some of these combined rankings, just taking a few measures, kind of mixing and matching a few of these. It really kind of helped me in some cases to identify good prospects that kind of otherwise fell through the cracks. especially when it comes to this number of lifetime gifts. I mean, when you can find someone who has high lifetime giving and a high number of lifetime gifts, that usually turns out to be a good prospect, because previous giving, it's not the best indicator, obviously, of future giving, but it's a pretty darn good one. And especially when people are giving, as I say, a large number of have a large number of lifetime gifts and are giving quite frequently.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I'm hearing, right? This is what I love about this. And the reason that I was really happy that you wrote about it in your blog post is that you're saying, if you want to figure out who the top of the class is, you can use multiple criteria. So if we had capacity ratings as, 1, 10 million or above, 2, 5 to 10 million, like that, instead of like the descriptors, use a rank, then you could put that in column G. And then you could say people who are rated the highest, and you could even say like recency, give me recency by the lowest value, right? And then highest rated, recent givers. So we're ignoring the one time that Bill Gates gave us a gift 25 years ago, right? And then, but actually have lifetime giving. That's pretty high up there.
And one of the things I like about this too is that
Yeah.
you're really comparing it against yourself. You're not comparing against, someone else.
Right.
That you're looking for your best prospects and not kind of, compared against some other institution, which is something I've been really thinking about a lot recently with with your own,
one of your clients. Yeah. So this is one of the nifty tricks that Greg likes to share. And of course, that's his genius. One day he just pops up and goes, hey.
Yes, Maggie. This is a lifetime game. Like I say, this is a dummy set of records. So it was just marked lifetime giving when I when I got the data. So I assume that's lifetime giving.
This is not a client database.
No, it's not. No.
So we talked about velocity, and velocity is, and I think I've talked about a velocity every other month. And I'm sorry for getting old, but it's starting to come back to me in the market. So the other data scientists are coming back to talk to me, and I checked his velocity. I did velocity, and I'm like, yes, it's coming back. What it is it's measuring escalation of giving. So I'm giving 1,000. Then 1 year I give you 2,500. What happened, right? And that bounce for my velocity to go 2.5 versus 2.1, that bounce says something about my investment. Okay. And now the next thing to look at from the internal viewpoint, and this is also something that can help, that Rank EQ can help, is like once you do that, Rank EQ piece that Greg showed us, what if you then further split them down by people who have deferred? And what does deferral mean? Right? So if you have half the number of prospects that you solicited in a year deferred giving, the gift officers are going to feel like it's a no because they want to move on to somebody fresh where there's a better opportunity, that sort of thing. But what if going back to them in the same year and saying, how would you like to wrap this up? How would you, how do you feel now? Right? The whole what about now question. What if that is going to bring in warmer and more likely gifts than just churning new prospects? I'm looking at Ruthie in case she wants to add anything.
No. I mean, this is something I've talked about in different organizations, having them do. Some of them have tried it. Other ones just look at me like I'm nuts. But I'm not wrong.
I get the same reaction. The trigger system of contacts. I mean, I actually had a salesman call me up and he said, hey, you have a Dell machine that you bought. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, don't you want to refresh that? I'm like, how do you refresh a computer? And he was trying to sell me a new computer because it was time for me to get a new computer. I said, if you want to sell me something, sell me one of those big, Star Trek monitors so I can look at all 3 of my computers at once. And he said, oh, when's a good time for me to talk to you about that? I'm like, September. And I know he's going to call me in September. And so if we use our database as well, our gift officers can do that too. You know, you said for me to call you back in September. I had a saleswoman who went through 3 years of that with me, and then I finally got to buy it. She knew it was a budget thing. And then here's the other piece. Are you under asking, right? And this is part of the tattletale process. Maybe it could be thought of as part of the tattletale process, right? You ask for a gift that is smaller than, or you acquired a gift that is smaller than the prospect's capacity. If their pledge is less than half of their capacity, were they really pledging a major gift, or were they pledging an annual gift and it's time for you to go back for another one? Or they're pledging a token gift. I love the stories in the shops where I worked where, you know, the $25 million prospect's token annual fund gift was $100,000. And it's like, how are you going to steward me after that? You know, mine is 100, you know what I mean? It's enough to say, notice me, and then what you're going to do about it, right? So, you know, what's yours? What is a token gift for you all? If you were going to make a gift to an institution to see how they treated you and see if you wanted to give again, what would be your gift size? And while you're thinking about that,
I think
the
also
other
like,
thing, sorry,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
thinking like the size of token gift, at least for someone who's thinking of it from my perspective, is it depends on who I'm sending the gift to. So if I'm sending it to some place that makes, I'm not picking on Harvard, but like they have a pretty good donor base. So some place like Harvard, they're you know, what I would give as a token gift there would have to be pretty substantial for them to notice me. But if it
Right.
was my small local nonprofit, like my small local, you know, food pantry or something,
Mhm.
doesn't have to be as big, and they will, you know, for $50 there, I might get treated like a king, right?
Mhm.
So it depends on the organization sometimes.
Yeah, we gave a $25 gift to the local food pantry 5 years ago because one of my friends on the AFP board worked there, and they haven't left us alone since. We're still their best friends. Yep, you're right. Okay. So the other piece is your gift processors can actually be one of your best set of prospectors, and they want to know that. Like they want to know that they contribute, right? Those of us who work in what we call the back office, right? We don't get enough credit. So being able to celebrate that a gift processor noticed that a person made a first gift through a donor advised fund is a great way to pass the data through to research who passes the prospect through to major gifts. And you know, I've had gift processor mention that this was a gift through a foundation, or we don't have that company on record for her. So go check it out. All right. Okay. And so this is setting up alerts, and there's a little bit of programming stuff in here, but there's also some stuff that's like I go from English to programming. How do I say that better, right? So the first thing is that any alert with a prospect makes an announcement about herself. I'm getting married. Oh, you know, you send a congratulatory note. But one of the life event notices is retirement, or sale of a company, or if you have your like 10K Wizard used to send out alerts, and does iWave still do that? Everybody, does iWave still send you alerts if I sell stock in my company that where I'm a director? My company's getting sold, or my company's getting or I'm buying a company, right? Or I got promoted. Those are places where I'm going to brag about it as a US, as an American, right? Those are places where I'll brag about it. And that's where we say, hey, you know, you should go talk to her, right? So company sales and purchases, one of the places is just, you know, keeping an eye out for places where they tout for those top 10 lists. If you are in Boston, you know about was it Boston Business, who does their top 10 lists? One of them was top 10 gay bars. I remember that once, and I was like, that's cool. So, but it was like top 10 funeral services and top 10 cemeteries and top 10, you know, and it was so, and that everybody in Nedra just had a subscription to that newspaper just to get that, right? And do you have your alert system, right, through ZoomInfo or iWave? And PitchBook would be a curious place for me to put people's names if I could afford PitchBook. I bought a boat, right? Watch Saturday Night Live with a guy who bought a boat, right? Social Register, someone told me years ago the social register is the only thing that's not online. I believe that. Signals in the newspaper, people still want to be noted, but in smaller newspapers now, for having gone to the gala for the something something. Okay, and who were they rubbing elbows with? Oh, Maggie says Crunchbase. Thanks, Maggie. Oh, okay, we got to check out Crunchbase. Okay, and art news, right? Anything about exotic vacations. The thing is, if I'm on an exotic vacation and I am a small business owner, and any of you who have done any kind of research on Stop Hell knows that we're small, right? If I go on an exotic vacation, does that mean I've got big hat, no cattle syndrome? Or does that mean that I suddenly can afford an exotic vacation? And this BYGpub.com had an article years ago about how the rich enjoy their lifestyles, but I think the Capgemini report also had something about like how expensive is the Rolex watch at certain levels of wealth, right? Wouldn't that be fun? You go up and down the first class in the airplane and go, you, where'd you get that Rolex? You know, did you go to school here? Okay. And everybody is Googling, right? Except you can also use extreme Googling to just find people that you weren't thinking of. If you're like, I got to find something for my boss, try extreme Googling. You don't have to use a college name. You can say, you know, if you're with a healthcare organization, you can say hospital and somebody name, right? So this question, what services do you have alerts with? Maggie has Crunchbase. Is anybody using iWave? Ann's using iWave, thanks. Okay. Okay, so, and then this is the programming part. This is what I drive Greg crazy about. And he goes, you can do it. Oh, A-identified. Oh, great. That's interesting. A-identified talked to us a lot about a partnership. So, and I like what they have. Yeah, so this is what I do when I'm not watching Greg show me these wizardry in Excel. I try to write our programs that will actually go to like the SEC forms and pull out the ADVs, right? Or pull out the Form 4s, so that I constantly have a I have a research client. We're standing in as the research team, but we're not really researching because we don't have the tools, but where they have a business school. So ADV forms is going to be very important to this client. So how do I, you know, even if I download all the ADV forms, and I have 1 terabyte of data on this laptop that I'm talking on, and the laptop slowed way down and I had to throw that out, the foundation's off. But what if I can get in there and figure out who the owners are, and I can do name matching in the database, right? And then once I have that, of course, I can sell it or I can use it for our clients. All right, questions or comments on that, or do you just want me to move on because I geeked out enough? Okay. So let's talk about, because I'm moving through these slides kind of fast. We're only halfway through the time, but I'm about 2/3 of the way through the session. So, so feel free to pop questions in that said, can you go back or can you talk more about? Okay. The other thing is you want to find your fans. So if I'm a big advocate of the Girl Scouts, then, and you are an organization that provides services to girls, whether it's girls and boys or just girls, you want to note me. And you want to find connections to me, right? And also, you've seen a couple months ago, you saw my session on, you know, my local Habitat for Humanity. Who are the fans of Habitat? The Habitat issue isn't just donors, it's also trustees or board members. We're a small enough nonprofit that bringing in good board members is hard to do. God bless our banks who require certain level of staff to always be on some kind of nonprofit board. Otherwise, my county would be really struggling. You know, so when we talked about that, we talked about figuring all that out. Who has come to events but hasn't really given yet? Okay. And who sends regrets when they can't come? Those are actually indicators of bigger fans. And now you're talking about that ranking thing that Greg introduced a concept for us, that how do we lift up or rise up or bring into the light people who are more likely than not to give? Because giving, timeliness is what the focus is today. It's not who has it, it's who's going to give it now, right? So, and then how do your top donors behave? Do they talk about you on Facebook, or do they come to your events, or do they just send a gift? I mean, how do they behave? Because you want more people like them, right? Right. And who are the people that give this time of year? So here we are, April, May, June. Who gives in April, May, June? Make sure they get solicited, right? And if you are kind of organization gets a lot of matching gifts, like, do something about that. You know, we noticed you work for, do you still work for IBM? Wouldn't you like to get us a nice matching gift, right? Okay. And then we have friends of friends. Now some of our white label marketing partners, right? All of us consultants like to try to sell each other as a way of making our own companies bigger, right? They'll call me, I'll get an email that says, I see that you're LinkedIn friends with somebody, can you introduce me? And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't, right? The thing is who are the friends of your most important volunteers, right? So what if Steve Friedmutter, and the unfortunate thing is High Point Farms, Tina retired. Boy, she grew great beef and chicken, but she's retired. But if we were trying to figure out how to get to Stephen Friedmutter this year, we would ask High Point Farms' owner, Tina, you know, he's connected to you. Can you introduce us? And this is relationship mapping, which has come back into vogue. Are any of you doing relationship mapping? Connecting relationships to other things. The example I used this weekend was members of the Augusta Country Club, because we were watching the Masters. Because, you know, it's been a while since I've been in a coma. Relsci, yeah, see, Relsci's formalized a lot of this. Yeah, Relsci did a lot of this for us. Yep. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, Relsci is very good if you have it. Yeah, for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
and then
A Identified also has relationship.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah, they have relationship mapping, and they're very good at name matching. So we have clients who say to us, you know, we have this other list. Can you name match for us? And I've been wandering around every time I go to a conference. I wander around to the different booths, and I said, "How are you guys at name matching?" "Oh, we're brilliant," you know. But A Identified was yes, Elizabeth. But we want to know what you think about it. Would you be
Absolutely,
interested? Yeah. Elizabeth, think about a blog post about 3 months down the line that's like how I exploited my A Identified subscription. We'd love to hear that. Yeah. Or present it at APRA next year, right? Yeah, no good note goes unpunished. Yeah, so. Oh, okay. Elizabeth's like, I have an excuse, Marianne. Okay. Yeah, but actually, no, we look forward to hearing what you think of it. And of course, your last minute thing is everybody needs to get something that says you haven't given yet. We really need you to give. And that's outside of our, you know, outside of our back office stuff. This is just something we've got to send out there. So put up a concept that we talked about that you'd like to talk a little more about, because we were fire hosing today because it was my turn to speak. And when I speak, I fire hose. But what would you like to hear more about? Yeah, let's talk about extreme Googling. So Erin, do you mind sharing your, what's your organization? Are you education, healthcare? Oh, Suffolk University. Okay. So if I just said Suffolk University, right? But then I would say graduated or trustee or oh, let's do beneficiary. I like that. There we go. Okay, so this is all snore, snore, snore. Okay, so then I'm like, oh, I need some more trigger words, right? To say, is it asterisk, right? And now you see where I've got my choices here, news, finance. Let's go to finance. That's not helpful. I want news. Okay. And once I have this in place, I want to set this up as an alert. Now I have to remember how to set this up as an alert. I just did this with about 600 prospects for my client. There we go. So you'll see I have some of these, sorry. And once I've gotten this down here, now I can create my alert. I've got to come off this page because you're looking at client names. You're looking at prospect names. So these may not be interesting, except how did Smith College get one of our Suffolk people? And then here I am. And here's a new prospect. Pascal Desir. Because who is Common Capital? That's what I mean by extreme Googling. Do you want to help me make this better? Aaron, do you want to work on this with? Oh, okay, good, okay. Anything else you want to talk about? Now notice that when you're dealing with these alerts, right? How fast you read is what serves you, right? I'm an old prospect researcher. When I'm reading, I read through a page really fast. And I'm sure all y'all do too. Because so notice that it didn't take me too long to go, no, 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 no. Ooh, no, no. And then got to here because I saw the word business. Who wrote books? Nobody. Okay. Okay, and then images. You go past all the nifty stuff, right? Okay. What else would you like to look at? Okay, Greg, this one's for you.
I was going to say two things because first of all, I was going to the slide you were just on where it said luxury vacations and all that. Is there some way to scrape Twitter and Facebook and Instagram would be the big one for exotic vacations, but is there some way to scrape that so that you can, or set up an alert so you can see, if someone suddenly throws in, Thai, I'm trying to think of where someone could take an exotic vacation, of Bali or Thailand or
yeah, what's our definition of exotic vacation? Right, yeah. You can, so the course that I'm trying to finish is on sentiment analysis, and I talk about how to scrape Facebook pages, but I can't scrape for a topic. I have to go to a certain Facebook page, right? And then it starts tickling my ethics ribs when I think about looking at prospects' Facebook pages. I have no qualms about LinkedIn pages or Twitter pages because those by design are public. Twitter does have an API. And when I was at Cornell, I actually ran into him at the grocery store yesterday. Carl at Cornell was scraping Twitter pages for Cornell alumni. And that's where we started noticing prospects whose books just came out. And he was forwarding that to the principal gift officer who managed that prospect. And I mean, talk about an opportunity to talk. Gift officers don't struggle with finding enough prospects of wealth.
Right.
Gift officers struggle with finding a way to talk to them. So yeah. Now, if I put my vacation photos up on Pinterest, that's fair game. But on Facebook, that just, it tickles my ethics ribs. But I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, if prospect mentions they're going on vacation in Bali.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's a big.
Like, how much does it cost to go to a vacation in Bali? Yeah.
And that's another that's another reason why you have to tell that's why contact reports are so important. It's definitely something that comes up in conversation, but might not come up, especially among, when I said Instagram, I immediately thought, well, that's a generational thing.
Yes.
I never use Instagram, but my stepkids did.
Yeah.
Until something new came out, maybe they use TikTok now. I'm not sure what
Right.
I'm not sure what they're using these days, but
yeah, you couldn't get me to scrape TikTok to save my life because I don't want the Chinese digging through my laptop looking at my stuff.
Yeah,
that's me.
That's a can of worms. So but yeah,
all the pitfalls, right?
Yes. I don't need a knock on my door late at night for scraping something I shouldn't have scraped. But the other question I was, or actually this kind of a teaser I was going to point out is that I have a video coming up hopefully soon, and one of the things I mentioned in it is how to figure out who came the furthest to go to an event, or also how many people are an X amount of distance from your event.
Draw the circle. Yep.
Oh, don't even need to draw the circle. Just all you need is zip codes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, back in the early 2000s when we were doing this for prospect pools at Carnegie Mellon, we literally took a map out and we were drawing little circles. And we said to the gift officers, how many prospects do you need to live in a region to make it worth your time to travel there? And they were like 50. And now 50 prospects with major gifts rating. Right. And so once we had that, I mean, I was sitting with the prospect manager, like drawing little circles on how many we had here and there from the screening. But yeah, you're like, no, skip all that. We have all the technology now. Just make a hologram. But the other question is rank IQ just a basic formula in Excel? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Sure. I was about to say, the rank EQ is just simply something that I've used in the past quite frequently. And the nice thing about it is you can use it for really any measure of prospect engagement, whether it's giving capacity, well, event attendance, you can, I've often done, the numbers of events, someone's attended. The capacity, obviously by capacity rate. And like I say, the nice thing about it is that it's relevant to your organization. Maybe some other organization you have tons of events, but at your organization you just have a few. So if you're measuring events and attendance, you're measuring it against your own database and not someone else's. The analogy I would give is, when if you're a sports fan and you see someone's sports statistics, and you kind of have an idea of what a good season is for someone in your favored sport just by looking at the stats. But if you're not familiar with a sport, you don't really know what a good number is. And Rank EQ kind of equalizes that, I think, for your organization.
So sorry, so is Rank EQ a standard Excel thing or is it an add-on?
It's
I
a
think you
standard
answered-
Excel thing.
Okay, I think
Yep,
you
it's a
answered
standard
that. And
formula.
I got all excited about all the other stuff you're talking about. Okay.
Yep. And there's also rank average, but the only difference between rank.ave is simply that it averages ties rather than makes them all equal. So if you have, if you have two people tied at third, rank.ave will rank them at 3.5
Oh,
instead of 3. So
okay.
yeah, that's the only difference.
There are two people in my life who can stop my brain cold. Okay. One is the young lady that I raised with my ex, and the other is Gregory Duke. Sometimes I just, and then he just keeps talking until I come back to life. So
and I'm still learning, like when the stop happens, I have to I'm gonna have to learn. I gotta learn to step back. Yeah.
you can, and Ruthie does what she's doing right now. She just laughs and laughs. So what else do y'all want to look at? We have 13 minutes left. What is there something that you wanted to figure out when, like, did you come to the session to get a certain piece of information? Or are we just keeping you company at lunch? You could say we're just keeping you company at lunch, because then we'll feel better about the banter.
I think sometimes like trust me, these are all good ideas. Of course they are. But I wonder if some of the folks on the, sort of quietly eating their lunch and listening to us are thinking, how on earth are they going to implement this because of office politics, siloing, where they fall on the organizational chart? Like, that's the other thing. Like, you can have these great ideas that we all learn, but then how do you bring them back to your office and implement them? I think that's the challenge for some folks. And I don't have a great answer for that, unfortunately.
So for me, it's actually, so I trust my subconscious because it's so much a bigger a processor than my, what is it, cerebral cortex? The part of me that I can have awareness of. And my subconscious will light up my head when I see an idea. And then I'll go for that idea first, because my bigger brain, subconscious, higher self, however I want to see it, knows faster and better than I do up front which idea is going to which idea is going to work first and work best, right? So if of course this particular slide that we're looking at right now is pretty exciting. Think about it, all the things that I talked about, velocity, RFM, life average giving, all those things can be loaded up and then rank IQ'd and made into a combined score, right? You can use rank IQ to make a combined score, and then it becomes irrefutable who are the top prospects. You know, because when your gift officers come back and say, well, what about this? What about that? You're like, it's in here. It's in here. It's in here. It's in here. Or it's irrelevant, right? We prove that it's irrelevant. So, okay. Let's see. Elizabeth is no longer working with that trustee that we just identified in the organization that had that trustee that waited. I'm sorry. That's too bad.
Shucks.
I know, you had to send them a note. Michelle says, Ruthie, I think about one of your prospect management presentations where you said even very small steps are good wins in these situations. It takes time. And that's
Is
what we
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we evangelize too. It's like, it's not about I can't do all this. It's about I'm adapting this new tool. Really what stops us is what we don't know that we could.
Uh-oh. She froze.
Oh dear,
Maybe she'll come back.
the power didn't go out. Well, while she's coming back, I should also say that that Michelle, you're absolutely right, and Ruthie, you're absolutely right to say that small steps are good wins. And sometimes one of the best things to do is to identify which small step has the greatest likelihood of producing a win. You know, one of the things I used to do was when I worked I worked at a university, and I had a friend who was a gift officer, and I would sometimes feed him information. Oh, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like it looks like we've lost we've lost Marianne. But I was going to say that I used to give him some things that I was working on that, I was still not sure if they were going to be accepted by the rest of the organization. And if he was happy with it, he'd start using it, and he'd probably drop something into a conversation at the gift officers meeting, and everyone would also be like, oh, why did we get that? Where's why haven't we gotten this yet? And the next thing I knew, everyone would be at my door, asking me for whatever small project I'd been working on. But yeah, identifying a way to get a small win in any of these projects, I think is, it falls into politics a little bit, but at the same time, it's useful to push innovation ahead, I think.
Yes. Yes, it is. And sometimes those small wins are like infinitely tiny. For those who know my story about prospect management, I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years, but when I first started doing it, they all just looked at me like, why are you telling us how to do things? You're just a researcher. Just. But it was cute. But sometimes, they're getting folks in leadership positions to listen to those of us who might not be even like at a director or manager, like person level. Like we might be like the true like bottom of the org chart. Like sometimes you need to find a strategy to get that voice heard, because sometimes you're not even at the table, and when you try to get at the table, they won't let you in. So
yep, Marianne says her internet just blew up, so
oh, no.
we'll finish the chat for. And I was also going to say this, us researchers kind of fall into a strange part. Oh, Maggie likes her kitty. My kitty's actually up. You can't see her. She's on the chair behind me. Researchers kind of have a strange place in the organization in fundraising. I've found that you find something out about someone using these tools we've looked at today, and people are like, oh, you're a wizard, you find out all this stuff about people, you're brilliant, blah 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 blah. And then you ask for, and then you weigh in on some other topic, and it's like, no, you don't know anything about that. No. It's like,
yep.
It's very hard, I think, to get, because some of these things have you get a little bit outside of the research comfort zone in a few ways, to not just you know, to say this is the person you should be talking to now, you know, that's hard, I think. But I think, like I say, you know, finding people who are in your office who are amicable to your new ideas, that can help quite a bit. And Michelle says you sometimes need to bring up the same idea multiple times. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it takes other people outside of their own comfort zone. You know, that's, you know,
Yeah.
maybe one day down the road they'll feel comfortable with following through, and you'll be able to, you know. There's
Exactly.
one couple other things. Kevin Bender said small steps forward movement. My repeated bringing up of givers using donor advised funds is getting traction. That's great to hear. Because yeah, donor advised funds, I mean, they're still pretty rare, but obviously it's a huge indication of wealth. I mean, it's not something you set up to, you know, to give, say, you know, 1,000 here or 1,000 there. It's definitely an indication. You know, I was thinking the other day about how donor advised funds is a section on the VSE, for any of you who do the VSE, and yet, you know, the last VSE I did for a large institution, you know, they only had a handful of donor advised funds. It's still pretty, you know, pretty rare for someone to set it up. So it is a good indication of wealth.
Definitely.
So see, we have the three. Oh, the VSE. It's the Voluntary Supportive Education survey that many educational institutions need to fill out every year, or they, well, they get voluntold, as my ex used to say, to fill it out. It's something that, yes, it says voluntary in the title, but if you don't fill it out, you don't get credit for a few things. It's you know, it ties into the US News and World Report rankings and a lot of other things. So that's what the VSE is.
Yeah. And I think it's only higher ed about educations. I don't think secondary it
I
has.
think it's
does
only
it?
secondary. I want to say that I've seen some private private secondary schools in there, but maybe I'm wrong. I just haven't looked at the Giving USA report in a long time. So, but it's mostly, you're right, mostly post-secondary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Aaron. And there's one more person. Oh, Aaron, you asked about high net gifts from high net worth accounts. I was kind of questioning. I had a question about that too, Marianne. How
Yeah.
do you find out what a high net worth
I'm
account
so
is?
I don't know what happened. We had the internet guy over this morning to fix our modem, and I don't know what just blinked out, but I was trying to, if you guys have a spare couple extra minutes, I was trying to get to, let's see if I can blow it up again. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All you got to do is, you know, whenever you have slack time, just see if you can figure out
There you go.
what a high net worth account would be for different people. So they're not going to tell you, but does Fidelity tell you?
So you're looking for like the funds that you might be
like
receiving?
how much money do I have to have? How much money do I have to
Okay.
put in, right?
Got it.
See, here we go. So somebody's going to start putting in an Excel sheet. If you get a gift from a Fidelity Gold account, that person put in $250 to $1 million in assets, or in eligible assets. What's eligible assets? Let's go to one. Where's one? Those
There it
invested
is.
Fidelity Wealth Services. So you got to give them $250 to $1 million. If you have a Fidelity Platinum or a Platinum Plus, you've got $1 million to $2 million or $2 million plus in the account. And then you go back to your capacity rating tools, whichever ones you want to use. Capgemini, I think, is the one we use a lot now, right?
Mhm.
If that's what I have in my checking account, what does that say about my wealth? So yeah, whichever one of you wants to present this, or but that's Fidelity, and then you just from there you go to, okay, so what is what's the other one? You hand your soul over to the guy in a glass jar. It's one of the big banking firms. Somebody and somebody. Yeah, I'm not giving you enough information to come up with their names. The biggest one we all think of.
Like Charles Schwab or no?
No, like
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. Thank you.
It was Mackenzie.
Oh.
That was me. I was just writing Mackenzie's note.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Credit where credit is due.
So you just go in and like.
Mhm.
So if I have a Goldman Sachs something, see, request information.
This is true, Mackenzie. Yeah.
What?
Definitely perk your ears up whenever you hear one from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mackenzie. Yeah. And notice that Goldman Sachs doesn't put it out there, right? I'll bet Charles Schwab does, but Goldman Sachs is like, no. But if you have people who are on boards of these, like if you're big enough that you've got Goldman Sachs guys, just say, what is the, we got to give from a Goldman Sachs Platinum account. Right. Or, Charles Schwab Wealth Management account. I mean, my Fidelity checks don't have any colors or cute names on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't use them because I've got $16 in there. So, yeah. So that's what I was trying to say. And we're at 102.
Yep. Oh, there's a question in the chat. Will they be receiving this recording and presentation?
So we put the water cooler chat recordings up on the Stop Help page, and you will be invited to that. We don't provide the presentations. We like to, we're kind of jealous over them, and we like to reuse some of the illustrations. But the recording absolutely will be up on our website, and you don't have to sign up to go watch it. But if you're on our newsletter list, you'll get that notification when our marketing team takes care of the recording. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you to the Stop Help team for putting up with me today and every day.
And your internet.